Today in the Smugglers Room, we combine bags of corn and this. That's coming up. What's up, geeks? I'm Brian Thompson, and welcome to the Smugglers Room, the show where each week this chubby geek tries to build something ridiculous, pass on a few tips, and inspire you to build your own wild and crazy projects. This week is no exception. We're going to build a Sarlacc Pit cornhole board. Any objections?
Yeah, I have an objection.
I didn't think so. Now, before we raise the geekometer on this project and break all the rules, first we have to understand what those rules are. And for that, we're going to go to the ACO for the official breakdown and guidelines behind the cornhole board. Yes, indeed, folks, there is an American cornhole organization, and it is serious stuff. According to the official rules, a board must have a hardwood plywood playing surface, measuring in at 48 inches long by 24 inches wide. Each hole is to be a 6-inch diameter, centered 9 inches from the top of the board, and centered from each side edge. The front of the board is 3 to 4 inches from the ground to the top of the playing surface, and the back of the board is 12 inches from the ground to the top of the playing surface. The playing surface should be sanded smooth, and there should be little to no blemishes in the wood that may disrupt or distort play. Now, I'm pretty sure a Sarlacc Pit is considered a blemish, and it's definitely going to obscure play. But nonetheless, that's what's happening. So let's take a look at our plans for a cornhole board. Okay, for our board, we'll stick to similar dimensions as specified by the ACO. However, the hole for our pit will have several layers. The top of the board will have a wide opening, and then 3 subsequent layers will be cut from 16 by 16, 14 by 14, and 12 by 12 inch MDF sheets. Each of the irregular shapes will decrease in diameter until we have a rough 6-inch opening. Additionally, I want to have a stand mounted at the rear of the board that can support a drink holder. And what better design than that of Jabba's sailboat? Our first step is going to be to get all of our material ripped and cut to size. I'm going to go with MDF on this build and not the plywood because I need something that's a little softer that I can carve the Sarlacc Pit monster face thing. So, let's get this all ripped up. Whoa. Hey man, what's going on here?
Hey, I'm not okay with this.
You're not?
No.
How did you even get down?
Look, man, it's simple. I can't let you go through with this build.
Why not?
Seriously, dude?
Oh.
Yeah, so there's that.
Yeah, man, I'm sorry. That's a bummer deal, but this is happening, so you gotta move.
I hate you.
Yes, I know. After I cut the shapes out of the MDF, I did use my X-Carve. Way overkill. You could easily do this with a jigsaw in probably half the time, but I have an X-Carve, so yeah, there's that. Once all the pieces are cut, at that point, we're just doing a lot of sanding, getting things lined up where they need to be, and then gluing and clamping all the different levels together to make the Sarlacc Pit depth in the cornhole board. Our next step is going to be to route out all the patterns and design of the Sarlacc Pit's mouth. And for this, I'm going to use a Dremel tool and then just put a sanding bit on there and grind away until I get the shape I'm looking for. The process I used for making the teeth was exactly the same for each one. We purchased some EVA foam tubes from TNT Cosplay, and then I used a combination of sanding devices to get the shape of the tooth. Then we used a heat gun to form the curve. The heat gun also seals the foam, as well as giving it the shape. Once that's done, we measure out how long we want and cut it off with a pair of scissors and repeat the process. When making the tentacles, we used a longer piece of the EVA foam tube and then the vertical belt sander to grind in texture along the edges. We repeated the same process with the heat gun to seal the foam, and then we also drilled in 2 holes for the 2 tentacles that we're going to have in our pit. I wanted to create a really cool pattern that bordered the base of the cornhole board that had similar patterns as Jabba's sail barge. So I cut several pieces to length for both the left, right, and the bottom side, and then put these into the X-carve and carved out the pattern.
And I will burn it to the ground. All I gotta do is remove this clamp. Damn it.
It's time now to route out the sail barge pattern. I'm using the X-carve again for this, but you could just as easily print out a stencil or draw the design on your material and then paint it. For ours, I'm using 2 layers of CNC patterns, and that'll give us a little extra depth for the design.
I'm sure Google will know exactly what to do.
For the cup holders, I have 2 rectangular pieces of 1/2-inch MDF. These will attach to the back of the sail barge. The top of these 2 rectangles have 2 larger holes, big enough for the solo cups to slide through. Both of these rectangle pieces have 4 holes, 1 in each corner, to allow for dowels to be glued in place. Now we have a sail barge cup holder. We need a way for it to attach to the cornhole board and be elevated. My go-to is inexpensive PVC.
This is a lot of PVC. How do you expect him to remember all of this?
He's certainly not wrong. There is a lot of PVC parts here to make this work, but we're going to have a full build list on our website, and in the description below, there'll be a link to it. The board needs legs both in the rear and the front. The back legs will need to elevate the playing surface to the required 12 inches from the ground, and the front legs to the required 3 to 4 inches. I'm using a length of PVC pipe combined with elbows on either end, and some very cool pipe clamps that I found in the electrical aisle at Home Depot. They fit the 1-inch pipe and still allow them to swing back and forth when storing them or using them. Here you can see that I've attached a couple of 1-inch couplers on the base of the cup holder stand. These will serve as both support and an easy way to attach the cup holder. You can also see that the back of the board has 2 T's installed. However, that didn't work out very well, and we'll be changing that design shortly. I skipped ahead on you just a bit. As I said, using the 1-inch T's as an attachment didn't work because it caused the cup holder stand to lean forward due to the angle of the back of the board. So instead, I fashioned a piece of MDF along with a pair of pipe clamps to secure the base and the stand to the back of the board and hold it vertically level. Using a digital gauge and my miter saw, I was able to fashion both pieces of MDF to make this happen. We are now ready to prep for paint. MDF is very porous stuff, and it will soak up any paint applied if not prepped correctly. I got an amazing tip from my friend Philip Weiss from therebelscum.com on how to treat the cut edges especially. His tip was to mix up some spot putty with a little water and then apply that to the edge. Once it dries, you can sand it smooth and then apply your lacquer. It's one of the best tips of working with MDF that I've ever been given. After we covered everything with lacquer, we were able to lay down our first coat of primer on the board, and it looks pretty cool. To prep the teeth, I mounted them to nails on a small board, and then we covered all of our foam goodies with Mod Podge. This will protect the foam and give a solid surface for us to paint on. For the initial paint, I applied a mix of rusty red and some cream variations of spray paint to give it a sandy surface. The teeth and the tentacles are prepped, so now it's time to give this beast some life. I started out with some bright red paint, and then I started adding in a mix of burnt sienna and creams to help balance it out. Once a decent base was down, we started adding the teeth.
This is happening, and I can't do anything to stop it.
What do you think, little man? Didn't turn out half bad, right?
I guess not.
You know it didn't. All right, guys, as far as I'm concerned, this is only one of 2 cornhole boards that we have to have in order to play. And we're not gonna build the same one for the other side. I'm thinking something maybe carbon freeze chamber. That's not a bad idea, right? There's no objections to that. Yeah, I didn't think so. Now, it's gonna be a few weeks before I can have the second part of this thing built. But don't worry, we still got you covered every week with a new project. So hit the subscribe button so you don't miss it. And if you enjoyed this, hit that thumbs up for me as well. It really does help. And until next time, keep building something out of nothing. Don't be going falling in there. What's up, geeks? Welcome to the Smugglers Room. I'm Brian.
Nope.
Now, before we geekify this project and break all the rules, those rules are for the official rules. How many times am I going to say rules? I didn't. Oh,